will call the February 9th Kildare Hills Board of Commissioners meeting to order. If you would please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if you would all also join us for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, before we move into our agenda this evening, I would like to introduce Casey Farnell. Casey is filling in for Steve Michael for Town Attorney, so thanks for being with us.
Nice to meet you.
First then, we have on the agenda is the agenda approval.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Okay, I will actually turn it over to Casey for our public hearings.
There will be 4 public hearings conducted this evening by the Kildare Hills Board of Commissioners. The following rules of procedure will apply to the hearings. A public notice of each hearing was published in the newspaper and posted on the town bulletin boards in accordance with statutory requirements for the subject matter. A copy of the public notice has been filed with the town clerk for entry into the official record of the hearing. The town clerk will record all oral comments in a concise and brief manner. Written statements shall be recorded in a similar manner and made part of the record of the hearing and shall be submitted in full to the town clerk. Please limit your comments to matters relevant to the issue and to a time period of 3 minutes. A 5-minute exception will be made if there is a spokesperson for a group or if your statement is submitted in writing to the town clerk. All speakers must come to the microphone so that your statement will be taped. There will be no debates, and please identify yourself when you come forward. The first public hearing will please come to order. This hearing is called for the purpose of the Kildare Hills Board of Commissioners to receive comments from the public regarding a zoning amendment as follows. And I'll now look to Greg Lloyd, Planning Director, to give us a brief description of the first public hearing and the zoning amendment.
Thank you, Casey. The first one is from a zoning request, and we have a representative in the audience tonight, Mr. Randy Saunders, from Mr. Walter Ulickas, who wants to amend 153-100 F4 in the Ocean Impact Residential Zone to include permeable paving surfaces for lot coverage reduction. And the request was to allow up to 65 built upon area if you meet the standards of the North Carolina Department of Natural Resources water quality standards, and going from 55% up to 65% of built upon area, and with a lot coverage reduction of over 15,000 square feet. If you're under 15,000 square feet, you can go up to 60%. And the planning board recommended this amendment for approval on November 18th. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. We have no individuals who have signed up, so there's no numerical order to follow. So at this time, I would ask if there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak on the matter.
I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I'll try to sit up there. I'm representing the owner. I didn't sign up to
That's okay, just step on up there.
My name is Randy Saunders. I am representing Walter Ulickas on this proposal, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have on this. It's something that's really needed in the town. I believe everybody who drives down the beach road can realizes how the beach road floods and the shedding that we have from the drives. Our outfalls, some of them work, some don't. So this is a good solution to the problem, and it's been approved in the light industrial and the commercial, but it's never been presented for the residential. So that's what I'm here for.
Do we have any further public comment at this time? There being no further public comment on this item, at this time the Board of Commissioners will conduct discussion and make their own comments prior to the public hearing being closed and action by the board taken.
Great, thank you. Okay, questions for Randy or staff or discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, Greg, if you could enlighten me a little bit. I believe you and I talked about this some time ago. To refresh my memory, maybe for the benefit of others, that I know it's not a simple yes or no, maybe black and white question, but this, I guess the question is, would this allow for larger structures in the OIR in some circumstances, or?
I can answer it like I answered to Mr. Appleman, who asked that at the last meeting, and the answer is yes and no. It certainly could, but really the whole reason that staff feels like it's an appropriate amendment is because it allows for an incentive to use permeable concrete or asphalt in one of our zones where Mr. Saunders says that we possibly couldn't use it. And what's happening with buildings today is that there's the amenities and then there's the structure. And if you're looking at a single-family residential structure, the ones that they build nowadays they almost all have pools. They almost all have an outdoor area where people can recreate and have like an outdoor kitchen. Some of them even have outdoor bathrooms, and all this means coverage. You know, the heat pump stands mean coverage. So if you chose not to do some of those items, yes, you could build a bigger house. But I don't think that's what's driving this particular request. And I say under certain scenarios, you could build a bigger house.
So I guess this doesn't require them to retain all their runoff on the site
right.
as it does in commercial, so there would still be runoff, hypothetically. So they could have the permeable concrete and have more coverage, but you could still have some runoff. And there's no mechanism for determining whether that is more or less than it was before.
Not in this particular request, no, sir.
Okay.
There's a section in our ordinance that allows the Public Services Department to require a stormwater plan if a house is over 3,000 square feet. And you could certainly, you could require that at this point. But that's on the books today and has nothing to do with this request.
But doesn't it stand to reason that if it's permeable, that it would have a less chance of runoff than it would be if it's non-permeable?
I think we can look at some examples in time that you can see that it works, and if it's well maintained, I think
Correct.
it will.
And there is some maintenance to it, but
Yes, there is. That's all in the DENR regulations.
But also, if you didn't have the additional coverage, you'd also have bare vegetation that could also help with runoff and drainage.
That's right.
Do we have specific areas, either in the ocean impact zone or other areas, that show that they would have a benefit from using permeable concrete?
Well, yes, sir. We have a stormwater management map that maps all our drainage basins and shows where our problem areas are.
Okay.
Generally, up and down the beach road after a heavy rain, you know where they are from driving.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go from no vegetation, no development at all to some development, you're going to have a potential for that runoff. And this is meant to incentivize what we find to be, people like to call it green or responsible construction. So it was recommended by the planning board and the staff in November.
If we have areas that would certainly benefit from that, why wouldn't we make it a requirement instead of allowing for additional coverage?
That's always something the board could consider.
I mean, given the last meeting, we're looking at potentially reducing bulk and size of structures and everything else on the beach road. If I understand, this particular dwelling is how many bedrooms?
Other than it has nothing to do with the dwelling.
I understand that. I'm talking about just the size of the structure, and then we're potentially adding another 10%. So,
Well, that's not what's up for discussion tonight. I mean,
Right.
it's anywhere on the ocean, in the ocean impact zone, which is everywhere east of NC 12, you could do this. So, I think you need to look at it in a more broad sense than any one person bringing it in, as we have to by law when you're looking at zoning.
I understand. I'm just asking a question.
And I would think, too, the reason we would incentivize is because there is quite a bit of cost associated with it. So there's a cost associated not only with putting it in and implementing it, but also with maintaining it. So there would be a need to incentivize the fact that we are trying to do something good for the environment. And
I believe that's why people aren't using it now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's safe to assume.
I would, to touch on what you said, Travis, we discussed the reduction of the FAR at our last meeting, floor area ratio from 0.6 to 0.4 with some incentive. And we deliberately at that workshop we had, we didn't talk about the larger structures, single-family homes in that zone, because we didn't want to confuse the issues, we wanted to take care of them one at a time. In my view, if this were adopted, it would, in my view, it would be going in the opposite direction as we're going on two other issues. In other words, we're trying to reduce the mass with the FAR as far as condos and hotels, and then later on we're going to address the size of the single family and duplex rate, the same homes.
Right. I think we're in agreement.
But on this one, we're trying to have less mass here, and this would allow more. In some cases, not everybody would use it for that purpose, but the possibility is there.
Well, is this something we want to make as a requirement instead? Just, it's mandatory, you gotta have to have this type of concrete?
Well, even if you make it mandatory that they have that, it still doesn't stop runoff. The way to stop the runoff totally from going onto the beach road, for instance, the problem that we've been discussing, would be to have all the water retained on site as we do in the commercial zone. What other zone do we do that in? It's just commercial,
All except for depends on the type of structure.
except for residential.
All
Yeah.
commercial development or multifamily.
Right.
Is there, I mean, because this is not just to, in practice, likely could be that it's more the exception rather than the rule, that this is used to create more mass. Is there not a way to modify this to in some way protect against that, or does that have to be done in, like, when we discuss single family dwelling later? Like, I guess I'm saying, what I'm thinking in my mind is, if they're doing aesthetic improvements or they're adding a pool or something that's not increasing the bulk or size of the house, and because we as a town gain advantages with them using the permeable pavement, is there not a way to modify this to protect against the bulk of the primary structure? Or is that not possible?
I would suggest that
Sorry.
there probably is a way to do that, but I'm not sure
If Randy has any ideas or
I
thoughts.
do. I
Okay.
think that you should modify it to only give credit for accessory structures and support structure, such as pool deck, heat pump racks, boardwalk, and not allow the additional square footage to go into heated living area or build a house any bigger. I believe you should modify it to do that.
That might work.
That would suit everyone. No more big houses.
Might make everybody happy.
Yeah. And
Well,
the
it would-
town would get a big benefit out of it.
Right. And it's going to lend itself to our further future discussion, so you don't feel like you're going against, we're doing one thing and taking one step forward and 3 steps back.
So basically, Randy, what you're saying is that the dwelling itself, the heated area, as you said, wouldn't be permitted to be any larger than it would with or without the permeable concrete, but
Correct.
would only apply to those items you mentioned.
Support structure.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
accessory structures or support
accessory
structures.
support.
This is where,
Would that have to be written into this, or would you have to do it over? Do a do-over?
that's what I was getting ready to turn to the attorney and, or Debbie or Greg, since we have the applicant
I
here,
have all these experts here, let's ask them.
is there not a way to amend on the fly?
I believe that's a substantial change to the request, and it would have to go back to the planning board.
Plus, I'm not sure, I'm not confident that it'd be wise to do it in an open meeting anyway, unless you can modify just a very few words. I mean, I'd like to help the applicant, that's not the issue, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't want us to get into a
We
situation
gotta
where
write it.
Right, and then,
we're having thought
Not
through
have it-
well.
Right.
sure,
I agree
Absolutely.
with that.
how soon can we get it back here?
The next.
it has to go to the planning board, right? If it's considered, well, Steve could review it after you work on
Depends on
drafting the
what kind of
language.
you come up with, I think, that would actually do it.
Mhm.
We could get it on the planning board agenda for next Tuesday and have it back to you, Mark.
Well, but it's gotta go back to the planning board, you're gonna have to set a public hearing. So then if we come back March to set a public hearing for April,
Does it have to go back to the planning board?
that,
So what the
I think that's what
language
needs to be reviewed.
That's what we
Once
need to
the
find out.
language- Once the language is
Okay.
written in, I think at that point review could occur and the decision can be made as to whether or not it would need to go to the planning board if it amounts to something that's substantial. Once review is had of the proposed additional language or modified language.
So I guess for the purpose of discussion now, one of the possible actions we approve, disapprove, or recommend staff to go make a language change, basically to, so it would be to allow, to keep it, however, limit it to where you could not use, the extra lot coverage towards primary structure or however heated structure, that it would go towards accessory structures.
Yes, I would, since I'm the applicant and the only one who really cares, and I'm in a time strain, the owner's willing to spend the money and he wants to do this, but, you know, if it's gotta go all the way back around the circle again, it may be too late for him to do this. I mean, I would think we could just amend, well, I don't know if you say amend, just take it, just approve it for only accessory and support structures, period. I don't know that it's a big, huge change. I mean, the application didn't really ask to make the house bigger. It just asked to get a credit in some way. Get an incentive for somebody to spend the money to do this and helping, and everybody, you know.
If it did infer that the main structure or heated area could or would be larger than what we're maybe suggesting would be a substantial change, but since it didn't specify that, all we're doing is clarifying what it applies to, maybe?
Correct.
I don't know, does that sound right or not?
the board could approve this evening as it's written and as it's come from the planning board, and then you could ask the planning board to go back and do what you're talking about now. It wouldn't hold the applicant up. That would happen in a timely enough manner that I don't think it would create any issues for you as far as another structure coming in. And then that would allow us an opportunity to be sure that we got the language correct.
Yeah, because you still could check to see, if we do what you're saying, it wouldn't hold them up, but we also still may not have to circle it back to the planning board, and we could be taking action at our very next meeting. Could, potentially, it depends on if it doesn't have to go back through the planning board. And if Steve signs off on it. But otherwise, it's gonna be likely April.
Well, I think if you approve it as it's written, then your request would be for the planning board to look at what you're saying about not allowing the
So
structure
she
to
still
be
would send it to
larger.
planning board.
But it wouldn't hold
But
up
it's-
the
but it's not,
applicant, but
right.
it would be done in a timely enough manner that I don't think there'd be a concern that somebody's gonna use it to make a structure
10
larger.
people come in building houses with big
I
structures.
mean, it's gonna go, it would go to the planning board at their next meeting, it would come to you in March to set a public hearing in April.
April.
That's not enough time for somebody to build a bedroom house. So I don't see that being a concern, but it,
If we can figure out how to do it.
that's what,
I can figure out how to put it in writing to where it makes sense, because you've got different people with different visions for housing, and different visions for accessory structures, and different visions for how they're going to add their parking, so I don't know.
So
I'm
you're
sure
not
how
thinking-
it can be done.
I don't know how we can prove that it didn't increase the size of the house.
That's right.
Just like I said, in some cases it might, in some it will
Yeah,
not.
that's right.
Could the applicant apply for a variance in this case?
there's just not, it's,
Doesn't meet the.
It's not good.
It's not a good candidate.
well, you haven't had your discussion on large single family, so you're not really sure where that's gonna take you.
That in and of itself,
Right.
the end result could manage the bulk
So-
issue.
So theoretically, we could have a discussion in a month or two that would eliminate this, and it gets passed for one house, or one or two houses, whoever's putting in permits between now and then.
That's right.
Potentially.
So, the suggestion may be to approve this and then deal with the issue of the structure size for single-family homes.
I think that's the right thing to do I mean, I was prepared to approve this tonight as it is. But if the concern I'm hearing from other board members is the mass of the primary structure, that size, and we've
We're gonna
already
be looking at
agreed
that
that we're gonna
anyway.
take that up, then I think that's
Well, I mean, do you
an
agree that
appropriate way to handle it.
it's counterintuitive to what we're talking about
Well,
doing?
it is if they use it to apply it to
Right.
the structure, but if not, then I think it's a nice benefit to the town that people are not going to do on their own because of the cost, and yet to then go the other way and make it mandatory, I think is really, could limit people that
Absolutely, because it does
could
cost a
limit
lot.
their, developing a smaller size,
So if we handle the issue of this structure size for single-family and duplex in the OIR in a timely manner, then there wouldn't be much time for anybody to sneak a bunch of stuff in there. Randy could sneak it in, but.
No, I
No,
wouldn't do
I'm
that.
kidding. I'm kidding. But,
And we can-
yeah, that would,
And we can ask staff to keep thinking of this. I mean, we've kind of called this as an audible on the fly here, but we could get you guys to be thinking of it, and maybe there is, and maybe not, I don't know, but that also could be factored in when we have our single-family dwelling
You're right. How do we know
discussion.
what size house they were gonna build beforehand? They can say, I was always gonna build a 5,500 square foot house.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
So-
what's the pleasure of the board then?
So if we vote to approve it, then, when we get to the legal part about the consistency statement, what it ends up saying, it basically is that, it's in the public interest because it provides an incentive to, manage, stormwater management.
Yes.
That's
Mhm.
So, and it is gonna
a
do
huge
that
concern.
to some degree.
Well, this will be a good thing for the town to be able to go out and see this when it's done, to see how it works. And for other builders to look at it also, and, you may write it into your ordinance, I don't know.
Okay?
Okay. Okay. Is anyone ready or prepared to make a motion?
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve the amendment to, to proposed amendment 153.100
ocean impact residential zone lot coverage to allow permeable pavement with lot coverage reduction. The proposed amendment to 153.100E4 ocean impact residential zone lot coverage to allow permeable pavement with lot coverage reduction is consistent with all comprehensive plans and other official adopted plans of the town Kill Devil Hills that are applicable. The amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it provides an incentive to utilize permeable pavement for on-site stormwater management.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay, Casey.
The second public hearing tonight will please come to order. This hearing is called for the purpose of the Kill Devil Hills Board of Commissioners to receive comments from the public regarding a zoning amendment as follows. I will now look to Mr. Loy again to give a brief explanation.
Okay, this is a hard one here. That was the easy one. Now, I hope not. Thank you, everybody for helping me get through that. And tonight, we had another request. This one is, Mr. Stan White, who's in the audience tonight, wants to amend 153.002 definitions and 153.076 parking. Make some changes to the way we regulate warehouses. And it will actually eliminate the definition for a large warehouse and modify the definition for a light industrial warehouse to remove storage of construction equipment. And it also modifies the parking for a warehouse, which when you're doing regular warehousing, it seemed reasonable to have the 1 to 1,000 square foot parking requirement, which was what we had for a large warehouse. And we're doing something other than that. If you have offices and maybe you're doing repair work or fabrication work, then you fall into another category. So that's the request that's before you tonight, and the planning board recommended this to go to the board on January 6th, and the staff recommends approval. Any questions?
Any questions?
No. Yeah, we discussed this before. It's pretty simple, I think. Yep. I agree.
There being no individuals who signed up to speak tonight, there's no order to follow, thus I will ask if there's anyone within the audience who would like to speak on this issue. Okay, there being no further public comment on this item, at this time the Board of Commissioners will conduct discussion and make their own comments prior to the public hearing being closed and action being taken by the board.
Comments? Discussion?
No, I liked it when we discussed it the first time.
Okay, motion?
I make a motion that we approve the amendment to 153.002 definitions and 153.076 parking to eliminate the definition for large warehouse and modify the definition of light industrial warehouse to remove storage of construction equipment and modify existing parking requirements for warehouse. The Board of Commissioners finds that this proposed amendment to Chapter 153 zoning, 153.002 definitions and 153.076 parking to eliminate the definition for large warehouses and modify the definition of light industrial warehouse to remove storage of construction equipment and modify existing parking requirements for warehouse is consistent with comprehensive plans or other officially adopted plans of the Kill Devil Hills and are applicable, and that the amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because of what Greg said.
Well, it codifies the ordinance with current practice.
Right.
I'll second that.
That's what he said.
Okay, any discussion or? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Wait a minute.
No, I agree. I'm sorry. My eye was low.
Okay, so Mary, it was unanimous. Okay.
I'm unanimous, Mary.
Okay.
Mike's having a
Thanks,
moment.
Dan. Have a good night. It's like 30 minutes into it, too. Okay.
The third public hearing will please come to order. This hearing is called for the purpose of the Kildare Hills Board of Commissioners to receive comments from the public regarding the zoning amendment as follows. Mr. Lloyd?
Here's another one I hope is just as easy. This one is staff generated request is proposed modification of 153, 355 site plan requirements simply to codify an existing practice of requiring owners' consent to building permit applications or site plan applications. And, it's in our, for single families, it's already in the commercial requirements, and somehow it was not in single families, and we felt like it needed to be there. So staff recommends approval. The planning board recommends approval on January 6th. Any questions?
There being no one signed up to speak tonight, is there anyone within the audience who would like to make comment on the matter at hand? Okay. There being no further public comment on this item, this time the Board of Commissioners will conduct discussion and make their own comments prior to public hearing being closed and actions taken by the board.
Discussion, comments? Motion?
Not me. Somebody else.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed zoning amendment 153.355 site plan requirements to require owner consent for single-family and duplex dwelling site plan submittals. The proposed amendment to 153.355 site plan requirements to require owner consent for single-family and duplex dwelling site plan submittals is consistent with all comprehensive plans and other official adopted plans of the town of Killable Hills that are applicable. The amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it codifies the ordinance with current practice.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Just looking this way. Okay.
Final public hearing, please come to order. Mr. Lloyd, if you could give us an explanation of the proposal.
Okay, the final public hearing tonight is to modify our zoning ordinance, and it's in the staff generated ordinance amendment as well for the exception section, which is 153.82, to allow certain fences on unimproved property. And this came about through people's desire to want to delineate their property boundaries, and in some cases that actually keep people from parking on their property or trespassing or throwing trash, or there's been any number of issues that have come up over the years. And the way our ordinance reads now, you have to have a primary structure to have an accessory structure. That means you can't put fences or sheds or any number of pools or anything on a vacant lot. You have to have a home there. So this would allow an exemption or exception for split rail fences and rope fences not exceeding 4 feet in height in all zoning districts. So people would have that opportunity to delineate their property boundaries, but there would be no opaque fences or chain link fences up there. Probably harder to maintain and maybe create a different problem for the neighborhood if somebody couldn't see what was going on behind a fence, and maybe storage or other activities that the neighborhood might not like. But we feel that this would be a good addition to your ordinance, and staff recommends approval, and the planning board did as well on January 6th. Any questions?
Thanks.
With no one being signed up, I would ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak at this time.
Commissioners, Mayor, Attorney, Town Manager, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Richard Bear. I live on Bay Drive in Killable Hills. This is the first time I have seen the language. I knew the proposal was coming up today for approval or for discussion, and I'm certainly in favor of this fence modification of the ordinance now, which allows nothing. But I think that for my purposes, I mean, I'd like to put a fence on the property I own next to my home, but that I maintain as a separate lot for tax purposes and issues like that. I think the 4 feet tall is fine, but I think saying there has to be a rope or a split rail fence is gonna defeat my purpose of keeping the deer and my dogs in, the deer out, and people. And I'd like you to allow fences no greater than 4 feet tall, because any town employee that can't see over a 4-foot fence is physically handicapped, okay? And then they can check for issues like abandoned cars and trash and overgrown shrubbery. And leave it up to the planning board to make sure that the fence is not opaque or private, such as boards together that you can't see through. I need about a 3.5-foot gap, because my dachshunds can get through a 4-inch one. And so, that's why I say if you leave it to the board, make the description of the fence such that it's no greater than 4 feet tall, yet is not solid wood or offset boarding that would restrict the vision of anyone, the neighbor, the town. And then you could have them made of metal, you could have them made of wood, you could have them made of plastic. Frankly, what I like are the little cheap white picket fences that you get at Home Depot and Lowe's. They were great. And you can put them up in sections, and it doesn't require, a contractor with an engineering degree to do. So I would ask that you consider not being specific about split rail or rope, but say that 4 feet and find the right word, doesn't make the town hard to observance issues. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. There being no further public comment on this item, at this time, the Board of Commissioners will conduct discussion prior to the public hearing being closed and action taken by the board.
Okay, thank you. Discussion?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Bear. I think, maybe a chain link fence. I mean, you can see through that. The only time you can is when they put the plastic strips through it. But, that's not usual in this area. Unless it's a tennis court or something. But
I think one of the issues about the chain link that was discussed in an earlier meeting was the aesthetics. I think you touched on it, about how it would look. The chain link fence is a little more industrial maybe, or in some zones especially, I think. Of course, you can always put up a fence on your property that has a primary structure. Pardon me?
Any type you want.
Right, yeah, that's what, yeah, you can, right. But if you're talking about putting a chain link or a 4 or 5 foot picket fence around a vacant lot, so to speak, lot, then I think that's a big difference between that and one that has a primary structure. Like your yard, you can keep your dog in your yard, or you can use it if you have children or whatever, or for security. But if we're talking about, I think the key word there is to delineate in reference to the property line, so that it'll deter people. One of the things I think Meredith told me a while back was they were using it for beach access and leaving trash and stuff, and I think that split rail or the rope fence would stop people from doing that. I think that's what the intent was.
Well, a split rail wouldn't necessarily stop someone from, and that would be easy to.
Not physically, but I mean, they see it and they go around it, and that's, hopefully.
Mhm.
Anyway. If you're talking about wanting to keep people out totally, I mean, you could go to many extremes to do that, solid wood fences or barbed wire, not barbed wire, but
razor.
So I guess what we're talking about is not for the security or for any of those things to actually physically prevent people from going in there, but it's a deterrent.
Right.
Without affecting the aesthetics to a great degree.
Madam Mayor, it's exactly what Mayor Pro Tem was mentioning. It delineates the property boundaries, and then you would know, it's very clear, if there's a fence there, that you're on one side or the other. If it's on the property line, that leaves a little less guesswork. Well, I thought I was on my property, well, maybe you weren't. But, and Mr. Bear, his request is a totally different animal the way I see it. It's something that we have no problem with if you own the properties next to it, and we've talked about a covenant that would allow you to bring those properties into an agreement where it's if you own the property and there was a primary structure there, and if you sell the properties and the fence goes away unless they build a primary structure. So there's ways to get at that issue as well, Michael mentioned, and there's something there. But I do think that this is a good amendment for just the property delineation. We want to go in another
Which was the
direction.
original intent of this being created.
And that was gonna be my question. I was, and I might have missed you when you said where it was, but my assumption was that the property you're talking about was a lot beside the lot that you currently live on, which would be the reason you want to keep your dog in. So, but you're saying, from what I hear, you're saying that there may be a way to deal with that separately and apart from this, because again, this is something that's totally different.
It's much more cumbersome than this.
Right.
It involves attorneys and agreements and recording and all that. There is a method.
I mean, bottom line, this is an amendment to allow certain types of fences on unimproved property. If you're wanting to use it as improved property, then there's other guidelines that you have to follow.
That's correct.
I mean, one of the things that I personally liked about it was the fact that it called out split rail, non-privacy fence, anything else, but clearly delineated the property lines and showed people where that was at, not necessarily to be used as something else.
Right.
So,
I have a question, if you don't mind. Mr. Lloyd is talking about what it is. This is a license agreement that is signed between a property owner and the town, agreeing to allow me to put up a fence. And it's been used before in specific circumstances by the town, and when the person sells the property, the license disappears. Is this amendment going to prevent him from being able to give me a license?
No.
Because it says this amendment does not allow tall, opaque fences on undeveloped property.
No, sir, this is an exception to the rules that just allows you to exercise an exception. This doesn't prohibit you from a covenant or an agreement or a license or anything.
Okay. I don't mind getting a license. It's just, is it gonna be thrown back up in my face by an attorney?
No, sir, I don't think so. It's under the 153-082 exceptions. I feel comfortable that it wouldn't prohibit you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah, because I think yours is a separate example in the fact that you actually have a house on a lot and it's together. In a lot of cases, people actually put those two lots together, which you wouldn't want to do because eventually you can, if the houses doesn't encroach on the other lot, you can sell it. So I understand why it's like that, but no, I agree with Greg. Personally, I do see, you can see where the boundaries are totally different. Is that?
No, I agree.
Okay.
I do agree. I don't think this would prevent any kind of licensing in the future.
Okay. Yeah, because I wouldn't want to do anything that would stop you from doing that either.
You don't know who's gonna.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Who's gonna be the attorney in 10 years from now, and then they're gonna pull this rabbit out of the hat and say, well, you can't do it. And then we're gonna go back to square one. But, okay, you say so. Thank you. You say it's okay, so here.
Okay, are we ready to move forward with the motion?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed amendment to section 153.082 exceptions to allow certain fences on unimproved property. And this amendment is consistent with all comprehensive plans and other official adopted plans of the town of Kill Devil Hills that are applicable. The amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it allows property owners to visually define their property lines.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to the first opportunity for public comment this evening. This is an opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the board on any topic to please do so. We do ask that if you're speaking as an individual, you limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, if you would keep those comments to 5 minutes. When you do approach the podium, if you'll please identify yourself as well. We did have a sign-up sheet. We only had one person sign up, so we will start with Miss Erin Burke, and then we'll call from the floor. So welcome.
I'm going to try to take as little time away from your meeting as possible tonight, but I wanted to bring to you some of my frustrations that I've had recently. On November 25th of 2014, I contacted Debbie Diaz regarding a complaint about an employee at the Kill Devil Hills Fire Department. Ms. Diaz very nicely forwarded my complaint to Mr. Sean Murphy. Mr. Murphy contacted me on December 5th, assured me that my concerns had been addressed, and then I followed up with a public information request for some employee information on the 12th of December 2004. I received a very pleasant and prompt response from him on December 15th. It was actually less than 24 hours. I sent my email on a Friday evening, and he responded to me on Monday afternoon, so it was a very prompt request. On December 20th, 2014, I sent another public information request for similar information. Given my past interactions with Mr. Murphy, I expected a prompt response. Considering the time of the year and the holidays, I thought that a month or 20 business days would be an ample time to gather this information and meet the statute-stated reasonable time period to respond to this type of request. I sent a follow-up email to Mr. Murphy on January 22nd with a copy of the original email dated December 20th. To date, 32 business days later, I have yet to receive my information that I requested, nor have I received any acknowledgement of my request. I can understand that gathering this information may take some time. However, given the promptness of my initial response, less than 1 business day for one record, I would think that 32 days should be ample time. I understand that the town's business allows for certain things to get pushed to the back burner, but I've been more than patient and hope that you can help me receive the information I've requested.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, is there anyone else that would also like to speak? Yes, welcome.
Hello, Matt Walker, 439 West Walker Street. I'm actually here on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation again. Just wanted to, as you guys well know, we've been sort of battling this whole offshore drilling thing for years now, but last year you guys were really helpful with the passing of our resolution. I don't know if you're aware, but on this Wednesday, the board, the BOEM, Bureau of Offshore Energy Management, are having a scoping hearing on Wednesday in Norfolk, and we're going to be going up there. We're leaving Southern Shores Marketplace about 1 o'clock, or on 1 o'clock on the dot. We're going to go up there and we're going to try to maybe participate and let them know that we don't think it's a good idea. Just wanted to invite any of y'all to come along. And if you can't, then there is a March 30th is the deadline online. So feel free to go on there and voice your opinion there as well. That's pretty much about it. And I have to leave because I got to go to a wind energy meeting now. But thank you guys very much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this public comment time? Anyone? Okay, seeing no hands, we will move to response to public comment. I was going to say, Debbie, do you want to?
Erin, I'll be happy to chat with Sean in the morning and see where your information is. I will.
Great, okay. And I know Matt had to run to another meeting, but under the mayor's agenda, I wanted to bring this up a little bit further, so I'll wait till then, if that's okay, the offshore drilling. Okay. Okay, we'll move on then to new business. The first item under new business is the beach driving regulations. If you all recall, at our last meeting, we had asked staff to prepare some, I guess, information for us to then facilitate, or for us to continue our discussion. What the town manager provided in our packets. Well, it's two things. One, it's kind of a basically lots for us to consider. It wasn't, this is not coming to us as a recommendation from staff. This is coming to us as information, as well as also a copy of NAG's Head's regulations on this. So did want to make sure everyone understands that this is just presented as basically a starting point for our discussion. Debbie, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Just to echo that, what you have before you is extremely restrictive, and I sent you an email after the packet went out just to make sure there wasn't any misunderstanding. There's no way that I was intending for this to be what you would adopt. The only thing more restrictive than what you have in front of you is no beach driving, period, except for the obvious, which would be the commercial fishermen. So simply, I wasn't exactly sure where you wanted to go with this, and so we figured we would give you something that was very, very restrictive, and then you could kind of chisel away at it as far as the restrictions. And then there had also been some comments about NAG's Head, so we just simply included that.
Great, thank you. Okay, so discussion. Hey guys, what do you think? What are your comments?
It's pretty restrictive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that we had discussed when this brought up, one that we certainly didn't want to get everyone riled up in the area, but was to potentially have something out there that provided, if nothing else, some education. And if you applied for a permit, then you're at least going to be able to read and sign off on what a core set of regulations could be. One of the things that I had added after that through email, and I'll fess up to this, is eliminating some of the night driving. And I mean, obviously some commercial fishing and things are going to potentially happen at night during the off season, but I mean, that seems to be where a lot of the complaints are coming from. I don't think we're going to eliminate ruts with any of this unless we just do the complete restriction, which I don't think is anybody wants to do. I like to drive on the beach as well, so I certainly don't want to do that. So, but that being said, I mean, we've got a lot to take in here. So I don't know if anybody's actually read through all this, but it's very restrictive.
Jerry Froelich was the one that had asked us, I think back in November, to have this put on an agenda, and he called me yesterday and apologized that he wouldn't be able to make the meeting tonight. He did want me to pass on a comment that him and his wife did walk on the beach yesterday, Sunday, I guess, and said that there was a lot of ruts, and I mean, we've discussed this with him before, and that's why we're discussing it now, because he asked us to bring it forward. But and I had told him, I had met him last week socially, and I told him I didn't think there was any chance we'd be stopping it. I mean, that was my opinion with how I felt the board was going, but that we may address the speed limit and the night driving, perhaps.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't know. The ruts are going to be there. If you allow any amount of driving, the ruts are going to be there, and you can't. There's no way to eliminate that. Just pave it, but
Right.
or plow it or something. But no, we're not going to do that. So the only things that unless there's another idea that strikes me, is this maybe the night driving and the speed limit. Because as it was explained, I believe by I don't know whether it was Dana or the chief explained it. There's no limit now, so there's no limit to how fast they can go. So I think maybe that's something we should address.
Well, yeah, we might want to think about having a permit. And, if they get the permits from the police department, the police can make them read out the rules to them, so they have clear understanding what the speed limit is. At least there's, then they can't come back and say, "Well, I didn't see the sign. It's dark." So that might be a good idea, to have permit, even if it's a real low cost one or free or something.
Yeah, I don't mind. The permit thing isn't a bad idea either. I would, in my mind, I just picture it as being a permit to drive on the beach without any you have to have this or do that, or, you know, I wouldn't want too many strings attached to it. If you wanna get a beach driving permit, you get the permit and you drive on the beach, period.
Well, and when they get the permit, they're gonna have to sign something somewhere, whether it's a receipt, et cetera. And with that, we can hand them the rules and regulations that say there's a speed limit that's X amount, you know, and when they've signed that, they've signed it saying they've received these rules and regulations. Now, whether they read them, that's up to them or not, but at that point, I think that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So that's the signage. It's not going to matter whether it's there or not. There shouldn't be anybody driving at night except commercial fishermen anyway, and they shouldn't be driving that fast. So,
Right.
Personally, I lean towards the, again the least restrictive portion of this. I do think we need to restrict something. I think I've talked with most of y'all and in the planning department about this. It's the hot dog. What most of us have a problem is the folks that go out there and have a good time and hot dog and tear up the beach, and the ones that are speeding and running over people. And I do think a permit with a slight fee is gonna get rid of a lot of those folks. I think, and I've asked quite a few people what they thought about it, and the majority of people that I've asked wouldn't have a problem with getting a permit. It's as long as you let me drive on the beach, it'll be. We've done this in Nags Head for years. This is not a problem. So, one thing in reading through this and reading through Nags Head's rules and regulations as well, if we're going to put the speed limit on there, and unless I miss it, and I read this a couple times, I don't know that we put the drug and alcohol thing in there as well, and I don't know if we can enforce that without it being a road or not. So
Driving under the influence.
driving under the influence.
Driving under the influence, you can. That's under a public.
Okay, so
area.
if that's the way anywhere, then we don't have to put
Right.
it there. So that's good. But that's the one thing I did notice, other than just the fact that I think we need to ease up on the restriction level. But I think we all knew that might be coming.
We all received the email. This was back in February from Maureen. No, actually, it was back in January from Maureen Welch. And while her it was basically like a public comment email. Well, she was wanting us to consider it as her public comment. She was saying her preference would be that we would oppose it. I mean, that we would, eliminate it altogether. But she also said that maybe, I'm using her word, selfish to request that. But so she went on to say, though, that what she would like to see is that we do go to a permanent system, and that way there would be the ability to educate at the same time, which is basically what you were sharing, Brandy. But I bring that up just because a citizen was thinking that very same thing, is sees the opportunity to do more education and messaging with that associated with some type of permit. So I saw, Dave, were you standing there because you wanted to share something?
Well, one of the things that's been brought up, there is something you can do to affect speed and rut size, and that's tire pressure. I drive with deflated tires, and my ruts are significantly less deep. And it's something that's in the educational material that would be easy to add in there, and it gives the vehicles handle better. They don't have to slide around. They have more grip. It's more agile in sand. And it's something that I do, and most commercial fishermen do as well. It's quite normal for people to drive a great deal to do that. It's just that people who do not have to go through the purpose of getting a permit, they aren't aware of it. They drive on the beach, and that's the first thing we tell them to do. It's the first thing that's often done is decrease and they're quite surprised how much better things go from there. And so it's quite easily done, but education, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And
Is it-
oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Something else that I would bring up. I know there are some people out there that are just vastly opposed to anybody driving on the beach at all. And for those of us that live here, it's the fall and the spring of the year, which are the times that we would be allowed to drive on the beach, are some of my favorite times to be on the beach. And there are some folks that just can't get to the beach. They can't walk on the beach. They can't walk over the dune. And to be able to drive somebody on the beach and allow them to stand there is a right, it's a privilege for some people to be able to do that. And of course, I mean, you all know I work with an aging population, and there are also disabled people. Yeah, I see Dave shaking his head. I mean, I know we've got the handicap wheelchairs that allow people to get there, but it's much easier to put them in a vehicle and do that than it is to try to push them in those wheelchairs over there. So I just, again, there's lots of, it's multifaceted with what we do, and sometimes we have to think outside of the box versus just saying, okay, we don't want any ruts on the beach and we don't want to do this. So let's just restrict everybody and everything, because again, sometimes with this, we're still not gonna achieve the objective that we're hoping for. So we kind of need to find a balance.
Yeah, I think with a permit system, I think you'd have less people driving on the beach, number one, because like I stated before, that somebody might want to drive on the beach and they look up and they see they need a permit and they say, I'm not going to bother, so they just don't do it. So you may have less. The ones you do have are hopefully going to be educated with what we've discussed and what Dave just brought up. So maybe it result for an overall better experience for all parties.
With the restrictions that are in place and hopefully being loosened up a little bit down at the seashore, I don't think people want to lose another place. So I think that the word will spread that it's a possibility for towns to become more restrictive if it's not responsible behavior out there. So.
Right.
Well, to provide staff guidance on getting this in a format that we like, can we go through some of this? And I have, if you all have, I have gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, so I can make recommendations moving forward, and you guys can let me know if you like or don't like them.
Yep.
So it basically move into page 5 of 9, because that's where the new language has been added. So starting with section 96.21 permits. Under A, basically A is just saying you've got to have a properly registered vehicle, which I think is inappropriate. I don't think that's overly restricted. Moving into B, though, was the first thing that two things I cited there. One, I guess there may be a reason for cutting it off at 4. I didn't know if like 4:30 as far as that time, just to kind of maximize the potential for people, but that may be something that.
No, that's.
The reason that was suggested is to give people time to come in for a permit, to get the permit, and then be able to go upstairs before the upstairs closes where they pay for the permit. It gives time to get the paperwork done. They come in at 5 minutes to 5, then don't have time to do the paperwork, they'll have to come back the next day.
Okay. But the big thing is that last line, the applicant must produce a valid North Carolina saltwater fishing license.
Yeah.
So I suggest striking that. I think, and there's somewhere else here that talks about that this isn't for pleasure, it's only for fishing. And I have an issue with that. I think it should be for pleasure too. So I would suggest striking that sentence just completely. The applicant must produce a valid North Carolina saltwater fishing license. Everything else there to me sounded fine in that section.
Great.
Then the next one would be the red, short-term permits. I'm okay with that. I guess it's more of a discussion if we are doing that. I mean, to do that, you either do it and don't charge a fee, or you do it and just reduce the fee. And I guess at the same time, we can talk about fee. I know Nags Head's at $25, and not for the sake of just saying we're doing what Nags Head does. However, I do think since we are their neighbors, consistency is a nice thing. I'm going to recommend
Great.
Consistency when we go to the speed limit. I think if as
25.
consistent as we can be, it just makes good sense for the end user. So my recommendation was $25 for the annual fee, and then maybe $10 for the fishing tournament. It's just going that out there.
That's what I have written down.
Okay. So, keep moving.
Perfect.
Next one would be the speed limit under section 96.22, section 2. So instead of excess of 10 miles per hour, change that to
I'm fine with
25
that.
miles per hour. And again, that's consistent. Like I said,
I'm sorry, what section was that?
that is section 96.22, number 2.
Okay.
Instead of 10.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, make it 25.
25.
On the next page, page 7 of 9, that's the one, strike number 5 altogether.
Yeah, no joyriding.
Yeah, there's no joyriding. Number 6 would be I did like the Nags Head statement to that. They don't allow night driving at all either, with the exception, I think they specify 30 minutes prior. You have to be off either 30 minutes after dusk or 30 minutes.
It's 30 minutes before and 30 minutes
And the only reason that,
sunset or something.
yeah,
Not that we have a sunset.
and to confess, I was in Nags Head fishing one evening, and I tell you, I don't want to be on the beach after dark because we had a really hard time trying to exit, but we didn't get off quick enough. So anyway, I liked a little more guidance than just saying not being a bit dark. But maybe we could check out that section in Nags Head. I may have circled the page, but.
Vehicles having
Some-
permits may be operated on the beach only from 1/2 hour prior to sunrise to 1/2 hour following sunset daily. It's number 5 on page 3. Well, it's just 3 of 6. Section 8-84, rules of operation. Operation on beaches.
Yeah. Okay. You guys cool with that? Okay.
I actually had it highlighted.
Okay. I think those were actually, that was it. Other than that, I think that removes some of those really tight restrictions, but provides some consistency. And the other thing would be based on Dave's comments, if we wanted to have a recommendation, I wouldn't want to put a forcing of tire pressure, because how in the world would we monitor that? We're not going to have people out there with gauges. However, I think it could be a recommendation on the handout that we give
Right.
people.
We
And
would
I don't
put
know if
it in
there's
the
a-
ordinance.
Okay, we wouldn't put it in the ordinance, but have it on the list of guidelines.
Things to do.
Is
not
there a
do.
recommended PSI for that?
20.
20-ish.
20 psi is a really good start.
Okay.
20 psi is a really good start. And
Regardless
like,
of the tire?
it really doesn't matter what the
Okay.
tire, yeah. And that will get people at least on the right page.
Right, and you'll know the folks that don't do that and leave them at 35
Yeah.
or 40 because they're on the back of a truck. I mean, we had like 4 vehicle fires up in Corova this year because
Yeah,
they're tearing their
trying to get
vehicles up
Wow.
and getting stuck. So.
The other thing that I liked in Nags Head's ordinance is that you can, and I don't know what all's involved, and I also know that we don't have a TWs in our town, but I like the fact that you could pick up your permit either at town hall or at designated fishing tackle shops in the
I saw
town.
that.
But I don't-
We could check with the Stop and Shop. They have a fishing tackle.
Okay. I just thought that might be nice, and they probably, I'm sure they did it as a matter of convenience for people if you're stopping in to buy your fishing license and
Yeah.
you wanted to go surf fishing, but if it's not feasible, I understand, but if we could look into it, that would be great if you guys,
Yes,
Yeah.
That's good.
absolutely.
That's great.
I'm sure they'd go along if it brought people in the store. Huh? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Down.
I think that's the only fishing tackle place in town, isn't it, Greg?
At this point.
Yeah.
okay.
Now, one other thing, as far as payment for the permits, we accept cash, checks, credit cards?
We, interesting that you would ask that. The finance director and I just as late as Friday had a conversation concerning credit cards, and we are working in that direction, but currently we do not.
Yeah, I know when to pay something once and you didn't accept it, and I was surprised. But so, yeah, well, that's good, we're working
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, we are.
Because a lot of people would come, I think, and be surprised if they couldn't use it. So, yeah, cool. So that'll be running parallel with this, right? Oh.
It is in the works, yes.
Okay, okay.
So, next steps.
The next step is we will bring this back to you in ordinance form at the March meeting.
Okay.
Thank you for your guidance. That's exactly, that was what this was intended for. It wasn't intended to make people think
To include it all.
that we'd lost our minds, but we wanted to touch on everything with the exception of no driving on the beach, period, and this has been good guidance. Thank you. Great.
The other thing I hate that, I know this is gonna be opening up a can of worms, but just because I think this is really gonna be a hot topic, and we really have a lot of people who wanna talk about stuff after the fact, and what we've just been through with the FAR is a primary example of how people find out about stuff and then they wanna talk about it. Is there any way we can do a public hearing with this?
What I would suggest is let us bring this back to you at the March meeting in the form based on your guidance this evening. Then if we've hit everything the way you want it, or, you know, you wanna tweak it some more, that's fine. But then if you would like to set a public hearing, set that public hearing for April.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't mean at the next meeting, but I'm just saying, before we pass this, can we bring this before the public and not let it be on us? I want them, once we get things like we are, I'd rather have the public's input on this and not, because maybe we're way off base on this, but I think, at least from what I've heard, what the people have told me, I think we're
it's
pretty
very
close.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to do that, that's for sure.
One question that I had, we've got we struck number 5 on page 7 of 9. So section 96.22, number 5. Had a question about number 4. I'm not aware of anyone else restricting that area to be driven on, the wet sand area. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a smart idea, but because it tears your car up. But
I've been coming to see you.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know if that's something we specifically want to restrict.
Does everybody know what that is? I mean,
If they get stuck and they can't get out, then you know.
Our
Well,
car
unless you park
totaled.
there, I mean, you're less likely to get stuck there probably than in other places. But I don't know. Might be more swimmers there. Dave, you have any thoughts on that?
No vehicles.
What it says is, no vehicle shall be operated between the water line and the high tide mark, commonly referred to as the wet sand area. I mean, I know you guys typically don't drive that far down, but
Well, you know, it's I guess wet sand area is simply because this is where people are hot dogging it and want to get that, you know, Chevy car commercial. They used to actually bring vehicles down to Oregon Inlet to make commercials for this this very thing. We ran into an issue several years ago when I was in Nags Head. They wanted to try to do some filming of vehicles going through the water, and it's an accident. It's just an auto accident. If water's very hard, it's going to stop, and it's just it becomes almost a spill situation where fluids start to get in the water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I don't know how you want to handle it, but I think it probably, like with some of the other things we've spoken about, speed, tire pressure, et cetera, it's probably best handled in education materials, you know, hydroplaning, kind of things.
I'm okay either way.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I'm not aware of anybody else restricting it.
I'm not
Yes,
either.
so-
I don't mind restricting it more from the water quality, you know, aspect, but I guess if
Just
either way,
smart.
I think it should be part of the education piece that they pick up. Know whether we put it in
We've had
the ordinance or not.
since I've been working in Kettleville's, I've worked 3 accidents on the beach. Every one of them has been because of this. 2 of them have been upside down.
Leave it
vehicle.
in.
Upside down, person strapped into their seatbelt, waves breaking, they're underwater.
Yeah.
So so it can be a little bit of a safety issue. Vehicles tend to dig in and handle quite a bit different in that soft wet sand. And
Well,
with
if
the
it's
nearshore-
in there, I'm sorry.
With the nearshore drop off, it even makes it a little bit more dodgy.
With it being, if we keep it in here, then if they see it, they can actually do something, you know, they can say,
Sure.
hey, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be, versus just a
So they do
recommendation or an
both.
education, yeah. So, but I'm glad you brought it up, cause it was good to discuss.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Okay, next is item number 2 under new business. This is to schedule a public hearing for proposed beach nourishment municipal service district and the proposed service to be provided within the municipal service district. So we are continuing to move forward with our plans for beach nourishment, and this is really the next step as part of the moving forward. Let's see, it's a requirement according to North Carolina General Statute. Debbie, do you want to add to this?
Yes, ma'am. Included with this information also is the map of the proposed Beach Nourishment Municipal Service District, statement regarding the service proposal to be provided within the Municipal Service District, and plan for providing the proposed service. Additionally, to this information that you've received and the public hearing, a mailing to all the property owners within the MSD advising them of this report, where it may be inspected, and the public hearing dates, time, and location must be accomplished and certified at least 4 weeks prior to the date of the public hearing. That's going to include the map and all this other information. Also, there's a resolution establishing and creating the Kill Devil Hills Beach Erosion Control and Flood and Hurricane Work Municipal Service District, which must be adopted, and that resolution is also attached. So for this evening, we're recommending that the Board of Commissioners schedule the public hearing on the proposed MSD and the proposed service to be provided within the MSD for Monday, April 13, 2015. Also recommend that the Board of Commissioners charge the town clerk with providing the board certification that the requirement of the public notification as required by the North Carolina General Statute was completed prior to the 13th public hearing date. And a motion would be in order.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to accept as read.
As presented by the town manager, that's absolutely fine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? I'll have something for after the motion, but, okay. All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do you know the timeline? I just don't remember off the top of my head. Certainly Duck and Kitty Hawk will be going through the same process. Has Duck sent theirs yet, or do you know where they are in their timeline?
Kitty Hawk's is scheduled for this evening.
Their public hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
So they sent their letters back in December? Or
Yes, ma'am. I think
Okay.
so. Actually, they sent them. I stand corrected. They sent them after the holidays because I
Okay.
think they didn't want them to
That's
get
right. Now I remember.
Christmas
Yes.
cards.
with holidays so forth. So I think theirs went out like the 2nd of January.
Okay.
Duck's public hearing is set for next month,
Okay.
and then ours would be the 3rd one.
Okay. Great.
So, that would allow anyone to attend, if necessary, they could attend all 3. There wouldn't be
Right.
any,
Yeah.
any
Spaced them out
conflicts.
that way. Yeah. So, and the reason I even brought this up is the mayors of those towns, as well as Bobby Alton with the county and Warren Judge, who has continued to serve on that, and the town managers, we have been meeting periodically because this is being approached as 3 towns going in at the same time to do this project. There's some cost savings. You probably saw in your packet, this is being presented as we have a taper on each side, but in the reality, assuming all 3 are doing it, we wouldn't have the north end taper because we would go flush with Kitty Hawk.
Right.
But I wanted just to bring that up so not only for you all, but certainly for the public, that they understand that all this is happening at the same time or simultaneously. So hopefully, if all things stay as planned, the big plan would be Sam would be going on the beach spring of 2016. So a little over a year, just a wee little bit over a year from now, maybe March, April of that year. So we've been working on it for a long time. I'm sure Bill Pitt feels that way, but it looks like it's getting closer. So this is another big important step tonight to get this hearing scheduled, and next big step is certainly the actual public hearing. So, thank you, Debbie.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, item number 3 is appointment to the planning board. Mr. Ben Sprough's term expires in March. He is interested in being reappointed to this position.
Yeah, I spoke to Ben this afternoon, and of course, as it says in here, he would like to be reappointed, and I would like to make a motion to reappoint him to the board for another term.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to Commissioner's agenda. Commissioner Midget?
Nothing this evening.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Nothing this evening.
Commissioner Rubin?
I would be very remiss if I didn't say that Senior Games is in full swing, and anybody who would like to register can register right now. Applications are online. You can't actually register online. You have to print the application and bring it to the Bomb Center. But anyone 50 or older is
No.
able to
Yeah.
register, so I know, sorry, there's so many in the room that aren't able, but, and believe me, it's more than you think. Take anybody who can take pictures, knit, all kinds of stuff. If you swim, it's all kinds of fun. So if you have any questions, see me afterwards.
Knit.
Knit.
A knitting
Knit,
contest? Is it
crochet,
like a knitting contest?
basket weaving. It's not a contest. You put your pretty stuff in and then it's
Oh.
judged.
She said you could follow up with her after the meeting. She'll give you all the
Oh,
details.
sure.
Registering and everything.
I have to get my knitting kit out.
Hey.
That's right. Do you have anything this evening?
We were discussing the FAR, and of course, some of us have been discussing it since 2006. And I had done some research back then in 2006 and 7 when the planning board handled it. Of course, we've been looking at it. And I've looked at some other places up and down the coasts, other states even, you know. And something I didn't know, I found out last night watching HGTV that it was one of these shows where people are buying beach property. And Emerald Isle does not allow hotels on the ocean front. Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Hotels are forbidden on the ocean front.
Huh.
And it was pretty cool because they were showing different parts of and there's not a hotel anywhere to be seen. Not only where that's a good or bad thing, but necessarily, but so people might think we're being strict, you know. You might take a look around and see what it's like other places too. I don't have a problem with hotels. I didn't mean that to be that way.
So if you see
It
an
was kinda
oceanfront
interesting.
hotel room there, then somebody's trying to scam you.
Yes. Yes. Don't go on one of those sites and rent a hotel room there on the ocean front.
Good to know.
Anything else this evening?
No, I think that's all.
Okay. I have 5 items this evening. That sounds like a lot, but the first is a memo in your packet. It's basically we have solidified our tour of the community care clinic, so it's scheduled for April 29th. That is the evening that we have our second public forum of the year. So we would just meet at the Community Care Clinic of Dare on West Health Center Drive in Nags Head. Do you all know where that is?
Yep.
Okay.
Ace Hardware?
Yeah, you turn down there. So we'll just meet there at 4. Certainly the public is welcome to tour with us as well. And then we will just come back here to start the public forum at 5:30. So that was just a FYI. The next item is also in your packet, but and the memo's here. I just wanted to take a few moments. Debbie and staff had helped research this, just looking at, we have a lot of staff that have put in a considerable amount of time and tenure to the town, and I know we certainly give accolades to staff, but I just wanted to bring to the public's attention and just to recognize these individuals over the past 2 years that have retired from the town, ranging anywhere from 8 years to 32 years of service. I didn't add all of these up. I should have 30, 60. Anyway, like Lee at 8 years, Donald Brown at 13 years, Debbie Caton at 30 years, Mike Hunter at 20 years, Ruth Griffin 28 years, and Kathy at 32 years. So I think it's just worth recognizing the service and the contributions they've made to our town. And moving forward, as we have staff retire, it would be nice, and we'll just recognize them as well. So anyway, just wanted to share that with everyone. So, and thank them. And item number 3, that's also in your packet here, is requesting a replacement on the Community Appearance Commission for me. I have absolutely enjoyed that group. They're a wonderful group. They're doing a great service. Bambos is in the audience with us tonight. They're doing a great service for the town. I feel honored to have been with them to help start this and provide some guidance. But honestly, I, with my new work schedule, bless you, have had to, and Chip, you're on that as well, James Almany. I have had to miss the past few meetings, and I feel remiss. I would like someone to fill that seat. I currently am also still serving on the tourism board as the representative for Kettleville Hills and the Government Education Channel. So I will keep those. I just need to look at my schedule a little bit. So didn't know who would like to take over my seat on that commission. they're a great group to work with.
Well, Travis said earlier he couldn't make the meeting, so I guess that leaves me, because you guys are already on other committees, is that right? All right, well, that's,
If, it would be great if you
that
could
would
do
be
that, and
awesome.
I think they would enjoy having you and some ideas.
Would be good.
I'm sorry?
They're generally,
I think Van Base is
8:30.
nodding, he approves. That goes a long way.
It's a fun group.
okay.
can you do 8:30 in the morning? That's when they are.
Every fourth Thursday, 8:30 in the morning.
But it's not every day, is it?
It's, yeah, it's
Once
once
a
a month,
Oh,
once
okay,
a month.
okay, I can do that, I can do that,
Fourth Thursday of the month,
Yeah.
8:30.
I
Great.
can do that.
So we would, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. A motion would be in order then to appoint Michael Midget.
I make a motion that we appoint Mike to the Community Advance Committee.
I'll second.
Great. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Michael.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, oh, I actually have 6 items. Number 4, this is where I wanted to talk about offshore drilling. As Matt indicated or shared with us, on Wednesday of this week in Norfolk is basically one of the forums where it's an opportunity to speak, share concerns about offshore drilling. That is the closest hearing of sort to our area. The only other one in North Carolina is in Wilmington. So I have adjusted my schedule so I plan on going to that. But I'm happy to, well, 2 things. Tomorrow, the Tourism Board Steering Committee, which I'm on that, is discussing this. So I'll be curious to see what direction they're heading. But I plan to speak on Wednesday afternoon, and I didn't know whether I have, like, if there's consensus to speak on behalf, like speak as mayor or just speak as Sheila Davies citizen. We do have, back in June, we adopted the resolution in opposition of offshore exploration and production of petroleum resources off the continental shelf. There also is a policy that was, or a resolution that was adopted, I think back in 2008 with this board opposing offshore drilling. So I just wanted to have a little bit of discussion with you all to see where you stand and what you think with that. Any comments?
You can speak for me.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's been clear with the resolutions that we've had.
So to speak consistent to the resolutions.
Absolutely.
Okay. Easy enough.
Thanks for taking the
time to go with that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, happy to do that. Okay. Just recall too, we have our reception for with all the committees on Thursday from 4 to 6.
4 to 6, yes.
4 to 6. And Bambos is hosting for us, so we
Thank
look
you.
forward to being there, and thank you for hosting that. And the last thing is, when you, is it going to be lit this evening? Okay, when you leave, the Heart of Kilma Hills with its very own Cupid. Oh, I was supposed to give you a heads up to cue the
It's okay.
cue the video.
Cupid.
Cue the Cupid. Anyway, with its very own Cupid's arrow, was constructed by the Kildowa Hills Buildings and Grounds staff for everyone to enjoy. And Valentine's is a wonderful time to express affection to friends, family, and those that are special in our lives. And the Kildowa Hills Town Hall or Town wants to help out on Valentine's Day from 6:30 to 8:30. So if you haven't made your Valentine's plans yet, we have saved you because here they are. You can bring your loved one, your sweetie, your whole family, which will probably be us, out and see this and also take pictures. Staff are going to be available to take pictures. They're going to be placed on social media sites, if you're okay with that, for everyone to enjoy. But the town plans to submit a photo of the Heart of Kildowa Hills for its entry into the North Carolina League of Municipalities 2015 Hometown Calendar Contest. So this is more than just an opportunity to take your picture. We would love to have our wonderful town featured in this calendar for the North Carolina League of Municipalities. Last year, over 60 towns participated, and the winners are selected by the number of votes they receive. So if we do get selected to be considered for the calendar, then we will follow up with information on how you can help vote for us. But obviously, we have to have something to vote on, so we need some pictures with the heart, I think, to make ourselves be in contention. So anyway, I think it's a really neat opportunity, and thanks staff for doing that. And hopefully we'll see you guys, some of you out Valentine's night. And those of you who are watching this, you can come have your picture taken and then go to dinner, or vice versa. That is all I have this evening. We will move on then to town manager's agenda.
No, ma'am, not this evening.
Okay. Town attorney's agenda.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. 4 items on the consent agenda. The first, minutes from the December 8, 2014, and the January 12, 2015 Board of Commissioners meeting. Second, 2 budget amendments, one for to record government access channel grant funds, and the second to provide funds for the employees' holiday gift cards. Again, to thank the board for that, it was very appreciated. Third is the volunteer release and waiver liability form. This form was prepared by the attorney. It has been reviewed by our insurance specialist at the league, and at this time its primary uses would be for the volunteers who's going to be working on the proposed disc golf course. Lastly, the 4th of July fireworks contract. The contract has been executed with Zambelli Manufacturing Company. Application has been submitted to the Visitors Bureau of Tourist Board for 50% grant for the total of the show. The show would be between $20,000 or $23,000. The $23,000 would be if it has to be postponed for the next evening. And staff recommends approval of the board, approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, this is moving on now is the final time set aside this evening for public comment. It's an opportunity for anyone who wishes to speak to the board to speak and share with us whatever you wish. Welcome, League of Women Voters.
Yeah, you already knew before I got
saw
up
the
here.
yellow guides.
Oh, gracious. Well, good evening, and I am Mary Ellen Hawthorne, representing the Dare County League of Women Voters, and I'm here to present you with the 2015 Citizens Guide. And of course, we would really like to express our appreciation to all of the towns and the others in the community who financially support this publication. And it's something we have been doing since 1988. And it's something you have to have by your telephone. All of you.
It's a
That's
great
always
resource.
a must. And of course, it is published by the State League's Citizen Education Fund. And this, of course, is something that we put out for the community, and it has all kinds of information on municipalities and state government and the town governments and all of the agencies and services that are provided here in Dare County. And we really do feel like it is a worthy project that we've been involved with for so many years. As a matter of fact, there's 6,800 copies that we are doing this year, and we distribute them all over the county. So we would really, enjoy the opportunity to come here and present them to you. They're just out, fresh in the boxes, and you will be getting quite a few. I have a few tonight to present to the commission, but we will be bringing by the copies for the office so that you can give them out. And they will be all over town. The Dare Center gets them, and the post office, and quite a few places. And of course, the league, there'll be an election come fall. And the league, of course, does sponsor the forums, and so we look forward to having that in the fall with the election coming up for all the towns and the municipality elections coming up. And I have to say, while I'm up here, how gracious the town of Kill Devil Hills is for allowing us to use this facility for a number of our programs. We thoroughly enjoy the opportunity to do that because it's such a good location, such a nice central location. And I know we have a number of our functions. As a matter of fact, I think there's one on the calendar for this month that we will have here. So again, we thank you so very much for your support, and I think you will thoroughly enjoy it, and I think all of you will enjoy these copies. So thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for all you
Mary
do.
Ellen.
Great. He's an excellent guide. Anyone else? Yes, James Almany.
James Olney, 113 Porthole. My comment is in regards to the beach driving. I noticed that there was some talk about a $25 fee for a permit. Is there any penalty if you don't get a permit, or you get caught on the beach doing something you're not supposed to be doing? I didn't hear anything about that. Thanks.
Yes, we'll include that
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak at this public comment? Okay. Again, thank you so much. Thanks for bringing the guides and for being here and for everything that your organization does for our county and community. And the penalties. There was one section in there that talked about it. I don't
Yes,
know.
ma'am, and that would be, if you've seen the one in Nag's Head, it tells you that a permit's required, and then it tells you what the penalty is if you don't have it, and we would do something similar.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe we'll have a drawing of that, and we'll have a drawing of that for you next month, so you can see.
Great. Okay, great. All right, anyone have anything else this evening? Okay, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second?
Second.
Okay. I don't think we have to really take a vote, but all those in favor, please signal.
Aye.
All right, good night,
for
guys,
joining
thank
us
you.
this evening, Casey.
I need to look that up.